Let people in, and we'll get started. All right, great. Okay, so I want to welcome you all to today's Collective Ed. My name is Nicole Munson, and I am the Operations and Programs Manager at American Friends of Combatants for Peace. And it's great to be with you all today. Thank you for joining us. Combatants for Peace is a joint Israeli-Palestinian community working in solidarity to end the occupation, discrimination, and oppression. We believe in a world where all people from the river to the sea live in peace with justice, dignity, and liberty. The movement was founded about 20 years ago by Israeli and Palestinian fighters from opposing sides who chose to lay down their weapons and work together for peace and justice. And they've been nominated twice for the Nobel Peace Prize. And American Friends is the US arm of the movement, and we make up a diverse community that extends beyond borders to work for collective liberation in the land and beyond the land. Today, our talk is called Education Interrupted, Occupation of Palestinian Schools, and we'll focus on Combatants for Peace's recently launched campaign around the manufactured Palestinian education crisis. We'll be taking time today to learn about what is happening with education in the West Bank to better understand the somewhat recent mechanism of the occupation. Our speakers will be explaining the details of the issue so that we can join their campaign and advocate here in the US and beyond if you're joining us not from the US. And we'll invite you to ask questions throughout. So if you want to ask a question, you can please send those in the chat to Lindsay. Her name says send questions here. So just look for that. And we will also have translation on our call today. So if you speak English, kindly select interpretation towards the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you can select the English room. And if you're speaking Arabic, you can do the same, but for the Arabic room to get that translation. So I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's talk, Suhair Ghanem. Suhair is a Palestinian from Bethlehem. She has been part of Combatants for Peace for nearly 5 years and currently serves as the project manager at Combatants for Peace's Beit Jala office, and also as the director of Combatants' annual Nakba Remembrance Ceremony. She previously worked in alternative tourism, focusing on raising awareness of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through fact-finding missions and educational tours in Palestine and Israel. Joining Combatants for Peace represents a continuation of her life's journey and long-standing belief in peace and joint action toward a future of collective liberation, freedom, and justice. So I just want to welcome Suhair. Thank you so much for facilitating our discussion today, and I will hand it to you.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you for everyone being here today and joining us. If I may start, I want you to imagine a child who really wants to learn, but can only go to school 3 days a week. So not because they don't want to be there, but because the education system around them simply can't function fully. This is due to Israeli withholding nearly about 8 billion shekels in Palestinian taxes revenues since October 2023. So on the West Bank, schools aren't always open and teachers aren't always paid. And that doesn't just affect school, it affects families and children every day. So for children, schools mean safety and routine. And for the teachers, it's their livelihood, something they rely on so they can work, provide for their families, and keep some stability in daily life. So when schooling is disrupted, children lose that routine and families lose the space to work and cope. This is what the cost of occupation actually look like at home, not in headlines, but in families in what families deal with every day. So at Combatants for Peace, we launched this campaign to raise this awareness to this urgent issue, to protect children's right to learn, and to stand with the parents who are trying to raise their children with dignity, freedom, and for hope for a better future. And at the same time, we want to push and to put pressure on the Israeli government to release the Palestinian money. So with that in mind, I want to have the chance, Nicole, to introduce our speakers. I may do this now. Sahil, I would like to invite Sahil. Sahil, he is an activist from Ramallah. Sahil serves as Combatants for Peace Palestinian campaign manager. His role involves co-leading work on the ground in the West Bank and advocating for peace and justice for all. Shall I go on and ask the first question, or would you like to introduce the other speakers first, Nicole?
Maybe go ahead and introduce everyone and then we can go into questions.
Perfect, perfect. Our next speaker is Tuli. Tuli is a clinical social work and criminologist. He is an expert in trauma-focused therapy and PTSD, as well as other EMDR trainer and other focused treatment methods. Tuli is an expert in couples and family therapy and human rights activist in Israel and Palestine. He researches, writes, and teaches also in the field of spirituality, based treatments and recovery from trauma and PTSD. He currently teaches at Ben Gurion University and various other locations in Israel and internationally. He previously held the position as the Israeli coordinator in the Israeli side of Combatants for Peace. Tuli is a former lieutenant colonel in the IDF and the public refusnik. Our next Palestinian speaker will be Aisha Al-Khatib. Aisha is from Nablus, a mother of 6 children, and she works as a school principal. She joined the Combatants for Peace more than 5 years ago after following the organization's activities and events on social media. She was drawn to the movement by the joint activities CFP carried out to achieve justice and equality. Iris Gur, she's born in Israel. Iris is a human rights activist, former school principal, and mother of 3 adult children. Iris was determined to see the reality of Palestinian life under Israeli military rule of herself after her daughter refused serving in the IDF. So she embarked on the journey of understanding. What she witnessed led her to join peace organizations such as Combatants for Peace and Jordan Valley activists. She is deeply committed to resisting the occupation and working toward the future of collective liberation, freedom, and justice for all people in the region. This is our speakers for today, and personally, I'm proud to be part of Combatants for Peace and to work with each one of you, because each person puts his own personality, and each one of us learn from the other. So with everything said, with the campaign that we started, I would like to start our first question with Sayed. Sayed, can you explain what is happening in the West Bank in education today?
شكرا سهير ومساء الخير للجميع، وبتمنى إنه يحاولوا الترجمة. مسموع صوت؟
Yes.
أوكي. في البداية بحب
At the
أختصر
beginning, I would
الوضع
like
بشكل عام.
to sum
شو
up the
أساس المشكلة
situation
وليش
in
إحنا
general about the
لا نحافظ على
root
الطلاب
causes of the problem
في
and
إطار
why
الحرب
kids
الصارت
don't go to
في
school,
المنطقة.
especially with the war situation that we are facing.
الأساس الاقتصاد الفلسطيني
Basically, the
بيعتمد على
Palestinian
الاستيراد
economy
بشكل
depends on
70%،
imports,
والمواطن الفلسطيني هو
70%,
مستهلك
and because
لكل
we
منتجات
all
الخارج.
Palestinians are like
لهيك
consumers of
قيمة الجمارك
products from
والضرائب
imports, and that's why
والتداول التجاري
the
الفلسطيني هي أعلى
taxes
قيمة
on import
للموارد
and export is
الاستيرادية
the
والموارد
highest
الاقتصادية الفلسطينية.
in the Palestinian
والسلطة
economy.
الفلسطينية
And the
أو
PA,
الحكومة
the Palestinian
الفلسطينية
Authority
بتعتمد
or the
بشكل
government
شبه كامل
depends
على
totally
موارد
on
الجمارك
the
والضرائب.
revenues from customs
ولهيك السلطة
and
الفلسطينية
taxes. And that's why the PA
تعتبر هذا المورد هو
considers
مصدر
this
لرواتب
revenue
الموظفين،
as a source
إن
for
كانوا معلمين
to pay
مدارس أو
for
أطباء أو
salaries,
مهندسين
whether for
أو حتى
teachers,
شرطة.
engineers, even the police.
قبل 3 سنين تقريبا
So
من
for the last three
انتشارات الحكومة
years,
الأخيرة
when
الإسرائيلية
the
في شهر
latest
11
Israeli government was
2022،
formed in 22, November
مع
22,
بداية شهر 12
by the
تم
beginning of
قسم
December, they
آسف،
deducted, sorry,
نسيت أحكي إنه
I forgot to
كمان
say
الضرائب والجمارك كلها
that
بتيجي عن طريق
all these
إسرائيل، لأنه السلطة
customs
الفلسطينية
and taxes, they
ما
come
في إلها
through
حدود وما في إلها
Israel
جمارك،
because
فكل هاي
Palestinians
الضرائب
don't have
والجمارك
borders.
بتيجي
So
عن
all
طريق
the customs, they come
الجمارك
through
الفردية
the
الإسرائيلية
Israeli
للمستورد
customs,
الفلسطيني.
and then it
لهيك
comes to
حسب
the
الاتفاقيات
Palestinian importers.
المفرومة
And that's why,
38 سنة
according
مع
to
السلطة
the
الفلسطينية وإسرائيل،
agreements
إنه
signed
إسرائيل
between
كل
the
سنة
PA and Israel
بتحول
for the last 30 years, that
الجمارك والضرائب
Israel will
الفلسطينية
transfer all
لجمعتها
these
من
tax money
المستوردين
that
الفلسطينيين.
collected
وهي
from
تقدر
the that
في
were
أكثر من
collected, and
350
it's
مليون
more than has
شيكل شهري، بما
350
يعادل
billion
100,000 دولار أقل
shekels.
شهر.
It's
والأمر
like
ارتفع.
$100,000
من لما تشكلت
monthly.
الحكومة اليمين
And
الإسرائيلي
since the
بدأ
Israeli
وزير
government, the
المالية
right wing,
الإسرائيلي
was formed, the
يعمل
Minister of Finance,
إجراء
the Israeli
يقسم
Minister of
جزء
Finance,
من
started finding
هاي
pretexts
الضرائب
to
اللي تجي على
deduct
مطافهم،
this money, which we
فبلش
call
قسم
the clearance house
من
money.
الموارد من الخزينة الفلسطينية.
And this has
ومع
really affected
تشكيل
the
وهون
Palestinian
صار
treasury. And
لما بلش
this,
القسم
when they
صارت
started all
السلطة
the deductions,
الفلسطينية
the PA
تعاني من مشاكل
started
في
to suffer
تيسير رواتب
from
الموظفين،
different
وصارت
problems and
تنزل نسبة
were not
الرواتب
able to
ل
pay full
90%
salaries, so they declined the
من
paying of
الموظفين،
salaries to
بحالات 80%.
90%, and some
وبعد ما
cases
صارت كارثة
80%.
7 أكتوبر
And
والحرب
after the
واستمرت
7th of
بعد هاي
October
الكارثة،
and the war after,
بطلت الحكومة الإسرائيلية
the
تحول
Israeli government
الضرائب
stopped
الفلسطينية بالكامل.
transferring the clearance money
ودخلت
at all,
السلطة
and
الفلسطينية في فترة
the
عجز
PA
اقتصادي،
became
صارت تحاول
like in a
إنه
state
توفر
of
الرواتب
financial
بقروض من البنوك
incapacity,
وقروض من المستثمرين من
and
الودائع.
started paying
فعلى مدار
salaries
سنتين
from
كل
donors,
الرواتب
and
توزعها السلطة
so
الفلسطينية
all
على
the money
الموظفين
that was
العاملين
given to
هي عبارة
the
عن ديون
public
من
employees,
المستثمرين
they were
والبنوك.
like debts from
لهيك هي ما
the
توزع
banks
اليوم
and
هسه على الراتب
investors.
أكثر من
So
60%،
that's not, for now
وكل
they are paying only
الموظفين لمدة عامين
60%.
بياخذوا
For the
60% من
last
رواتبهم.
2 years,
هذا
the
يشمل
employees are
معلمين
receiving
المدارس.
60% of their salaries, and this
على
includes
استمرار هاي
the
الحالة
teachers. And if this
الكارثة،
continues,
معلمين
this
المدارس غير
catastrophic
قادرين
situation
إنهم
continues,
يمارسوا
teachers are not
مدارسهم
capable of
5 أيام في
reaching
الأسبوع.
their
وحتى الموظفين فسرعت
schools
الحكومة
for
الفلسطينية
5 days
للموظف إنه يداوم
a
3
week,
أيام
and
في
that's why
الأسبوع
they allowed the
عشان يحاول
employees
يوفر
to work
المواصلات
3 days to
اللي ما
save
ما بيقدر
transportation
يجيب.
money.
وفي أحيان إنه زي
And
الشهر هذا
sometimes,
مثلا
like this
السلطة
month,
الفلسطينية بعد 40
the
يوم
PA,
وفرت
after 40
60% من
days, paid
اليوم اللي المشكلة صارت.
60% of the salary.
فهذا
Still, the
بشكل على
problem
مدار
exists,
3 سنين
and
إنه
this,
عدم
for
حضور
the last
طلاب
3 years,
المدارس
this
بشكل كامل. والدوام المدارس
prevented
صار 3 أيام في الأسبوع.
teachers and the
وبما إنه
students to
في
go
عجز
to school
اقتصادي في
5 days
فلسطين
a week, or
واحتمال
they've been
الكل
going for only for
التداول التجاري
three
على
days a week, since the
الخبر انخفض
dependency
70% التداول التجاري
on
بالنسبة
the
فيما
clearance
مضى.
and
فصفى إنه في مشكلة كبيرة
so
مستمرة
the
لمدة 3 سنين، وهي
so this problem has been existing
عدم
for the
رواتب
last
الطلاب
three
العاملين في
years,
المدارس.
that
احنا
and this
كمحافظين فلسطينيين
caused that students couldn't go to school. They can only go for 3 years. And for us as Competent for Peace, we have to develop our tools, nonviolent tools to combat this occupation and to find the new strategies and tools. And we agreed that Palestinians are not receiving their legitimate right according to the agreements. And since this is an international problem, like it is according to the signed agreement, so we tried now to call upon the world to help us put pressure on the Israeli government, not from a political aspect, from a humanitarian aspect, to help the Palestinian students to go back to their schools and to receive their right in education, especially basic education. And that's why we've seen in the Palestinian arena now and the Palestinian streets, we know that we can see that in the Palestinian streets, we didn't have this phenomena of having beggars in the streets, but now we are seeing now even students are begging in the streets at traffic lights. So they're trying to sell chewing gum and begging the people to support them financially. And this is due to the dire economic situation that we are living under. And that's why we brought this issue to your attention. And this is one of multiple problems that Palestinians are facing. And we tried to address this issue and to call upon the world to help us come up with solutions from the proceeding from the principle of human rights and child's right to help us in this issue. Thank you.
Shukran, Sahil. Thank you, Sahil. And thank you for explaining the reality on the ground and what's happening on the ground, because a lot of people, they do not actually know what's happening on the ground from the Palestinian side as consequences of this big and urgent matter. Tuli, if I may turn to you, when schooling become unstable, only 3 days a week, certainty around routines and resources, what does that do physiologically to the children and teenagers in a situation where so much feels out of control? What helps children and communities build resilience? And what role can schools still play, even with limited days?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. First of all, thank you everybody for joining us. You know, it is something that, you know, the deprivation of education of Palestinian kids is something that went under the radar for so many years. We, you know, when Sahil and myself were escorting shepherds in the Jordan Valley, I saw the children playing, not going to school, when the other children from the settlements around are actually going to school. You see them going to school all the time. And then we started investigating, and it turned out that it's already 3 years that most children don't go to school. And we are not talking about the periphery children. We're talking about children in towns and in communities all over the West Bank. We have to remember that children are part of a community. And when we think about a community has its rituals and its a normal way of doing things. Think about your children and teenagers, how important school was for them, not only in education-wise, because this goes without saying. The state of Israel is creating a second-class students, second-class people when it doesn't allow students to be educated and to get the same chance as my daughters got, or as any other Israeli child is getting, Jewish child or Palestinian that lives inside Israel is getting, to go develop himself and to this is a critical time, the time between 6 years old and 18. This is the time when our brain develops much faster. This is the time that we can study. This is the time that we either win or lose our confidence in the academic field. So we if I'm okay in school, so I trust myself, I have enough self-confidence to go to university, to go to college, to go to other stuff. If I'm not okay at school, if I don't have enough school days, and if my school days are interrupted, I study Sunday, Tuesday, and then maybe Thursday, and it's interrupted all the time, so I'm not gaining enough confidence, especially when I see that the families that do have money are sending their kids to private schooling, costing a lot of money, but those kids that live in my neighborhood have 5 or 6 days of school every week, and they are much better than me in academy achievements. So we are, the state of Israel, I'm saying we because I'm an Israeli, are creating a population of deprived people and deprived children and teenagers. That's one thing. The other thing that comes to mind, we're talking about time of emergency. The last 2 years and 4 months are times of emergency in the West Bank. We're talking about attacks, we're talking about siege, we're talking about all those curfews, all those things that children in the West Bank are exposed to, including numerous cases of death and demolition and other stuff. In Israel and in any other country that goes under an emergency, the school system is the main system where children get mental health. For example, when the missiles landed in the villages in Israel and in the towns of Israel, although it was the summer vacation, schools were open and children were invited to go to school, to come to school in order to have sessions of trauma therapy and other stuff. So school, in that sense, is a center of health, security, and the teachers are someone to look up to. But it only happens when you have your teacher on a regular basis, day to day. When you trust your teacher, when you trust your system, when you know that when you go to school, you'll have a place to talk, a place to meet your peer groups, a place to meet grown-ups that can help you, a place where the school psychologist or the school counselor or the teacher will help you overcome and process the extreme events that you went through. But if school occurs only 3 times a week, and there are weeks that it doesn't take place, and the teachers are deprived of their money, and they don't get the education that they have, the teachers in Israel get in order to help people how to overcome traumas and problems. So what you get is children that are neglected by the grown-ups. And we know that of all the things that create post-trauma, neglection is the worst one. If, as a child, I feel that the adults, the grown-ups, the people that are in charge have created a system that I have a place in, that I can go to school and talk with my friends, talk with my teacher, get some sense into the unlogical things that happen in the West Bank in the last 2.5 years and even before. So I trust the system, I trust the adults, I trust my community to help me. But if, on the other hand, my school takes place only half the time, my teachers are frustrated because they don't get money and they don't get the proper tools and means to help me, and I need to help my family to support itself because my father couldn't go to work where he used to work in Israel or in other places. And I need, as a child, on Monday, I sell cigarettes in the streets and I'm supposed to be studying on Tuesday. Then I fall out of connection with my society and I trust no one. When I trust no one, I'm more endangered to become traumatic. And when I'm more endangered to become traumatic, there is a higher chance of me falling out of the system and maybe even turning to violence and crime and other stuff. So in that sense, what Israel is doing, it is killing the future of Palestinian society. And when we do that, we condemn Palestine and Israel to keep on being in a conflict, because when you are lacking education, then you lack empathy, you lack the ability to overcome your trauma, and the traumatic vicious circle would go on and on and on and on. So these are the consequences. I don't want to, I can talk about that for a full week seminar, but I want other people to talk. Also, Iris has experience. Aisha, my friend, has experience. So I'll give them the stage because they see the place in their own eyes.
Thank you, Tuli. It's difficult and it has different layers that run with huge consequences if this big problem was not solved soon. If I may also move to Aisha. Aisha, as a school principal, can you tell us about your experience as an educator in Nablus? What our students are telling you or showing you about how this disruption is affecting them? Aisha?
مرحبا للجميع. مساء الخير.
Hi, good evening, everyone. For education, the issue of education today, first, I want to thank Competent for Peace that opened the floor to talk about this issue and to follow it up and to attempt to find solutions to contribute to solving the issue of education in the current in the Palestinian society. Of course, education in Palestine since the beginning of the Israeli occupation has been impacted, of course, but in the previous years it has been worse in the last after the 7th of October. So from the last 3 years until now. This started that teachers can't get their full salaries. They are receiving 60%, 40%, or 50%, and I'm part of that system, and I see how the size of the suffering and the suffocating situation, and the teachers can't even have money to pay for transportation to get to work. That's why they reduced the number of working days to 3 days instead of 5. So 3 days of teaching. In addition, there are 4 days where kids don't go to school. This was reflected on the table. It affected their academic attainment, their ambitions, their dreams, even their dreams. When you ask the students at school, when we used to ask them, what do you want to be in the future? They say, I want to be a doctor or engineer. But now when we ask him, he say, I look at you and say nothing, or I don't know, or sometimes they say, I want to be a martyr. So it really affected the way they think about their mindset, their attitudes, their future hopes, and they become depressed. There is no future horizon, and some of them left school, dropped out of school, and in my school there was there has
إما
been a
بسبب
lot of
إنه
dropout
أصلا
from
يشعر
school
بالملل
because
من
they felt
العملية
bored
التعليمية أو
from the
لأنه مثلا
educational
بداوم يوم
process,
بعدين
or
بعطل
because they
يوم بروح
come one
بداوم يوم
day
بروح
and
بداوم
then the next
بعطل
day they are
يوم.
off.
فهذا
And
الحكي بيأثر على
this has really
ترفيهيته في إنه
affected their
يروح للمدرسة ثاني
motivation
يوم،
to
بيصيبوا
go to
نوع من
school,
الإحباط، بفشت
and they
وجه
become
للمدرسة.
depressed.
وكمان بموضوع إنه
They
يعني
don't want
كمان
to go to
وضعه
school
الاقتصادي
anymore.
للعائلات
And also
الفلسطينية
the economic
كمان
situation of the
أثر
Palestinian
على
families
إنه
has
كثير من العائلات بدها
affected
تطلع من
them,
المدارس عشان تروح
and
تشتغل.
many
طبعا أنا
of the
بتحدث
kids
هون
dropped
مش
out to
عن
go
طلاب،
and
يعني مش عن
to go to
ناس
the labor
بعمر 18
market.
سنة ولا
I'm not
17
talking
سنة، لا.
about
أنا
kids
عم بحكي
18
عن
or 16
اللي هم
years old. I'm
teenagers، عم
talking
بحكي عن
about
ابن 12
teenagers
سنة 10
or
سنوات
12
ترك
years old,
المدرسة
10 years old,
وراح
who
عشان
left
يبيع على
school
بسطة عشان
and started
يساعد أهله
selling
كمان، لأنه الوضع الاقتصادي سيء
things in the
جدا أصبح
market,
كمان
because the
بشكل
situation
عام،
is
مش بس
very
الموظفين،
difficult, not
العمال في
only for
إسرائيل
the
كمان
employees,
أصبح ما
also the
عندهمش،
workers in
يعني ما في
Israel.
شغل لإلهم.
They lost
فالوضع
their
بشكل
job
عام يعني ما بتقدر
opportunities. So
تقول
the whole
إنه هو
situation
يعني انهيار المنظومة
is
التعليمية إذا ما
really,
صارش
it's a
حل
collapse
وبشكل
of the
سريع. مش
whole
بس انهيار المنظومة
educational
التعليمية،
process.
كمان
And not only the
الجيل، يعني
education process,
في كمان
also
يعني
we are destroying a
خلينا
whole
نقول يعني
generation of
طبيعة تفكير
students.
الجيل ولوين
And the
يروح
way
وشو
they are
يعمل،
thinking
صار في
about
حالة
what they
يعني
want to
ضياع.
do, they became
فإذا
lost.
ما صارت حلول سريعة
So if
وجذرية
we don't
ونقدر
find
العالم كله
root
يعني نوجه إنه يساهم
solutions
في إنه
and quick
يوجد حل
solutions,
لهذه
and
المشكلة،
if
فهي
so
معضلة
if
كبيرة جدا وراح
so if
تأثر
there be no
يعني
solution,
بكل
it
الأصعدة، السياسية
will have a
الاقتصاديا اجتماعيا
crisis,
سلوكيا
and it will be
فكريا ثقافيا
reflected
في كل
on
النواحي.
everything, economically,
يعني نطلع نحترم
culturally,
على المادة الجامعية،
behave on the
احترم
behavioral
المعاهد في المدرسة،
level,
احترم
on the
معلمات.
crime level.
بقول لك يعني
And I
احنا
hear
بمثال
many
في زمن
teachers
السبعة
say,
وثمانين
female
والتسعينات
teachers,
كان
they
يكون
in the
اللي ماسك
'90s,
صف ثالثة
they
إعدادي أو
if
توجيهي
you
يكون
have
مثقف
like
جدا.
a third,
اليوم أنت
even
بتطلع
if you
الطالب
have
مخلص التوجيهي لما
graduated the
عام
توجيهي
يعني
certificate
50% فقط من
secondary
الدوام في
school,
المدارس.
you are
لما
very
في نهاية
educated at
المرحلة
that time.
التعليمية
But
مش راح يكون
now,
طالب متعلم،
when they finish
واحيانا كثير
school, they
بيكونوا
are not
اميين كمان،
educated and they
بوصلوا
are
لمرحله
illiterate.
انه
Sometimes
ما في
they
دوام في
don't even
المدارس،
know
ما
how
في
to read
تعليم.
and write when they
الوضع
finish
كثير
school,
صعب، الوضع
because
حقيقة كثير صعب،
really
والمفروض انه يكون في
it's
هناك
very
يعني
difficult situation, and
تدخلات
there
دولية
should be
عالمية لحل
international
المشكلة هذه،
interventions
حتى
to
يعني
solve
في
this
كل
issue,
خلينا نحكي في الوسائل
and
المساندة اللي عم
to
بتحاول
have.
الوزارة التعليم انها تطرحها كحلول،
So
هي
the
بالعكس هي عم
Ministry
بتزيد
of
المشكلة.
Education is
يعني اليوم
trying to
مثلا
find
بفرضوا علينا
solutions, but
عمالهم الرزم التعليمية،
unfortunately,
الرزمة
it's
التعليمية ما
increasing the
بتغطيش
problem. They
10% من المادة
are
التعليمية اللي لازم يوفرها
imposing
الطالب،
on us
وبنفس
a
الوقت ما
new
فيش
kit
وقت
of
كافي أصلا حتى
curriculum,
للرسوم
and we don't
التعليمية
have
اللي هي عبارة
enough
عن
time
رقمين.
for these like kits,
الموضوع كتير
educational
يعني
kits
صعب
and
زي ما بحكيت
pedagogical
لكم.
kits.
أثر بشكل كامل
It's
على المجتمع،
This
أثر
has really
على
affected
حتى
this
المعلمين إحنا عنا
affected
أنا
our
كمدرسة
teachers,
عن
our
جد أنا ضايل لي
society.
3 سنوات عشان
For
أتقاعد
for me,
من شغلي في التعليم. قديش
as a
كانت
school
دافعيتي
principal,
قبل لما بديت شغلي قبل 20
when I
25 سنة،
started
وقد
20
اليوم أنا بشعر
25
بالإحباط
years
لأني كمان بشوف
ago, I
الجيل
was very
قدامي
motivated, but now I'm so
وبتألم،
depressed.
يعني كثير
I'm down.
بتوجع على
I
هدول الأولاد
suffer
الأطفال.
a lot
الولد
seeing
ابن
these kids
السبع ثمان
like
9
now,
سنوات هذا
those
طفل،
kids who are like
شو الذنب
7,
اللي
8
ارتكبه
years old.
عشان
These
ما
are
يتلقاش
children.
حقه في
What
التعليم. يعني الحق في التعليم
what
هو
is
من
what
يعني من
fault they
أرقى
committed not to
وأهم الحقوق
receive the right to
الإنسانية.
education?
التعليم
That's the
والصحة.
from the
فهذا الطفل شو الذنب اللي
highest
ارتكبه اللي عمره 7 سنوات عشان يكون
values,
موجود
and these are
يعني
rights to the
مسمى إنه
children,
هو
both
عم بيروح
right to
ليتعلم وهو حق
education
لازم
and
يوفر له.
right to the health. So they want to learn,
هذا
but
هو.
they can't have the opportunity.
شكرا
What
عائشة. Thank
fault
you
they
عائشة.
did?
شكرا
That's it.
سهير،
Thank
شكرا
you.
لكم جميعا.
شكرا. Sahil, if I may get back to you, you have been personally impacted by this. Could you share your family's personal experience with reduced access to education?
شكرا سهير. بحب بس أذكر
Thank
في
you.
البداية
I just
إنه
want to
حملتنا
remind
التوعية
as
عن
well
التعليم
that our
فلسطين هي بدأت
campaign
حملة
about
محلية
education, it started
وطورناها
locally, and
لحملة
we
عالمية.
developed that to be an
محليا إحنا
international
عملنا
educational campaign,
حملة
and
توعية
locally we did that
للإسرائيليين والنشطاء
campaign for
الإسرائيليين
the Israeli
لأنه بصير عندنا
activists,
يعني
and
مخفي
to tell
كليا
them
ومغيب
what's
كل الإعلام عنه.
happening is being off the
فنظمنا
radar,
جولة
and we did
لوحدة صحافة
yeah,
محلي
a
إسرائيلي
tour for an
كمان
Israeli
للوحدات
local
المحلية اللي موجودة في
Israeli
البلد
journalists and also Palestinian ones. And we went to the school where Aisha works, and they collected personal stories from the schools, from the parents, from the children, from the teachers, because teachers also suffer. And after we finished this tour, they asked me, like the one in charge of the press there, asked me which story to select. And he asked me if I have my own personal story as well. And I told him what I've been going through with my kids as a father. And so he told me then, I don't really need to select a story. I can use your story because you are part of the combatant of peace and you are paying the price every day. And this what gives us more determination to keep fighting on the principle of non-violence and on the principle of justice to all. And before I tell my story, I want to explain that the Palestinian society, in comparison to the Arab countries, is considered one of the highest educated people, and we had like used to have zero unemployment. So in our public schools are very considered very good schools, and they provide quality education. So my story, I've been to a government or public school in the suburbs of Hebron, and I was hired in the Ministry of Economy. And my wife studied in the same public school, and she is a GIS engineer in the land authorities. So we established our life. We took a loan, a mortgage, and we bought a house and a car. And thank God we have three kids. 5 years ago, they were not in school, but now the three of them are in school. And according to our plan for our life, we wanted to put them in public schools as we did. But when I wanted registered my first daughter, Lena, in the first grade, so I couldn't put her in the like in the kindergarten, and I put her in private school, and this cost me 4,000 US dollars fees, tuition fees for each one. And after I, like 5 years after I bought a house and trying to pay all the mortgage for my car, for my house, I have three kids in the school, and I have like 16,000 US dollars extra payments for tuition fees to pay for. And my wife and I, we take only from 60 to 90% of our salaries. And for the last year, it has been 60 to 50% salary receiving. So we had a problem with paying the mortgage for school, for the car, for the house, and even we couldn't pay for electricity, water, and internet. And this shortage, I'm now in debt for the bank. My account is always in the minus now. And honestly, just a month ago, during Christmas, when we are in the second year, like I found out that I have accumulating debt to the school, and I had to pay. So I had to take another loan from the bank. I took 7,000 US dollar to pay for the tuition of my kids. But my colleague, who is an engineer, and his wife is also an engineer, because we do a research at Combatants for Peace, and I asked him, how do you manage with your kids? He said, I can't put them in private schools because I've already had so many loans, and I can't take any more loan, and I had to put them in public schools. And we as parents, we try to teach them at home. So I he tells me my situation is much better than others. At least I can teach my kids at home, but there are other kids, their parents are workers. They are not that educated. They can't teach them at home. So everyone is trying to save him or herself. And what paid my attention is how his kids are in the government school. His son is in second grade, so he only goes for 3 days, and he tells me now my son thinks that the week is 3 days only, that this is, so for him the working days are only 3 days, and this is a new phenomena that, and due to this, to the disarray in the weekly system. Is there any place in the world where kids don't wake up in the morning and get rest? They only do that 3 days a week. That doesn't exist anywhere, but it exists here in Palestine, and for main reason because teachers, they don't even can afford to pay transportation. They can't pay transportation, which is shouldn't be a big issue. Like if I don't live here, and I don't think that's realistic. If I really don't know what the situation really is, it not be able to pay for transportation. Will that? Yes, it is realistic, because the government is in a financial crisis, and the Palestinian people and the students are all under occupation, and they are all under apartheid system. And this is, everything is targeted, and the Israeli finance minister, knowing that not paying the clearance tax would lead to creating obstructing the work of the engineer, of the police, of the teachers, and to freeze the whole life. They know that. And imagine that there is a country, their trade decreased by 70%. We are, so we've been for 8 years under occupation, but so we have really, like we have a lot of cases of violence now, and as Competent for Peace, our main mission is to resist and say no and object, but in peaceful resistance, peaceful tools, and to spread the culture of nonviolence. But unfortunately, violence is increasing, is mushrooming, and due to the economic pressures. So we have to think here and to really emphasize on the issue of education, because education is being targeted, and we should stop this targeting. Thank you, Suhail, and sorry for taking more time.
You highlighted that it's not only the education sector that is affected by what's happening and from withholding the Palestinian money. It's also the other sectors are also affected by this, and it affects the whole community, not only one part. So thank you, Sahil, for explaining this. I want also to encourage everyone to write questions in the chat, and we will have time to answer them all. Now Iris, I'll get to you. How do you think the Israeli society understands or fail to understand the impact of policies like withholding funds on education and daily life? From your perspective, what is the role of educators in time of deep injustice and instability, and what does it mean to show up in solidarity through education?
Thank you, Suhair. I want to continue what Tuli said. I think this is right. Harming the education society in Palestine, it's not only a moral issue, it's a political step that the Israel government is doing by purpose, not coincidence. So it's not only about the money, it's about the target. And the target is to destroy the Palestinian society. And they know what they are doing. As we heard before from Sahel and from Aisha and Tuli. Inside Israel, people didn't know. I can speak from my experience. I was a teacher for 30 years and a school principal. And until 8 years ago, I didn't know about the occupation and about the situation living under occupation. And I know that most of the people in Israel, they don't understand what is the meaning of closing the money or not giving the money of the taxes to the Palestinian Authority. They don't understand what it means to the real life, to the daily life of the Palestinian community. And the few that, just to clear what they think what the government is telling and what the media is telling, which is we don't give the Palestinian Authority the money because they give it to terrorists and they use it for terror and they don't deserve it, etc., etc. So this is how most of the average Israeli will look what is happening. Okay, so we don't give them money and they will, I don't know what, or even we don't think about it. This is one thing. The other thing is that also inside Israel, there is a really big problem with the education system. So even if the few parents or teacher or education staff that understand what is the meaning of closing the tap and not giving the tax money to the Palestinian authorities, I think they have their own problem now because also the Israeli education system is collapsing. No teachers, no principals in schools. Kindergarten is sometimes they are getting close because there is no teacher in the class. So they said, we have our own problem. We don't want to know about what is going over there. And another thing, if we will acknowledge what is going on, we will have to admit that we are responsible, and it's hard. So it's like more than just to know about it. It's also to be able to have responsibility. And in schools, inside school, as all over the Israeli society, the powerful voices are rightist, getting more and more extremely, and fascist. I also say religious, but it's mostly like extremely right. So the few of us that know what is going on and they have opinion and they want to speak about it, some of them are really afraid. Afraid for the place of work, afraid that they will be hunted and be excused even by students in the class in high school. So it's not so easy if you know about it, which I say if you know about it. Having said that, there are two things really that are important to know. Even if we are not a lot of people, the one who knows about it and the one who can speak without being afraid. We are the privileged one. It's important to speak. it's important to stand up, to raise a voice. A friend sent me a few days ago a quote of the Dalai minutes. The Dalai Lama, who said that how was it? Like I will quote it. If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito in one room. So saying that even if we are not a lot of people, it's important to speak. And also about solidarity. Before the Zoom meeting today, I spoke with my friend Lama in Hebron, Dura. She's an English teacher in girls' high school. And she told me that she showed the video of Combatants for Peace from Nablus with Aisha to the staff in her school. And they were very surprised. How is it that the Israelis, they know about them, they care about them, and it was very important. I think to even if we are few, if we will talk and we will say, yeah, we know we are responsible and we know what you are getting through and what are the meaning of education and how is it important for you, the teachers and the school principals and the students to have the ability to go to school. I think even it's like saying you're not alone and we care. And we know that we are responsible for what is going on. And yes, we want to do something. So this is one thing. And last thing, I have the hope because solidarity is like to give hope, and I want to give hope. And I also believe in education. I worked all my life in education. And I think that also I have a quote by Nelson Mandela. And he said that education is the most powerful weapon to change the world. So again, we don't lose hope and we must speak up and really to not be afraid and to not lose hope. So I really call everyone, what we can do is raise our voice to the world, to the international community, that to get education, to have the ability, it's not a privilege, it's a human right. To prevent education from people, from children, it's preventing human rights. It's like food, it's like water, it's like the ability to be free, it's the same. So we have to raise our voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you, Iris. As you said, education is the most powerful weapon that we can carry, as well as hope. It is the most powerful also weapon we can hold. And back to you, Sayel. I know you spoke a little bit about the Combatants for Peace campaign of education, but can you tell us more about the education campaign that we already launched? And what are the ways that you see people in the international community can participate or advocate?
هو في البداية في الطابع العام بعد
In
حرب الإبادة اللي
general,
صارت في
after
غزة
the genocide that took place in Gaza and
منظمات حقوق الإنسان
all the inability that felt by all human rights organizations that couldn't even save a tree or a woman or a child in Gaza. But we, in Combatants for Peace, we think differently. We still have faith and hope that community mobilization and pressure is a strong tool and a way and a peaceful tool to put pressure on Israel. And as in Competent for Peace, we always think of new mechanisms and tools that are effective, not only slogans. That's why we launched that local and international campaign. So it's an open campaign so that we can put pressure on the Israeli government and on the Ministry or Israeli Ministry of Finance to uh, pay back that money, those funds to their rightful owners, because according to the Israeli law, Israel doesn't have the right to keep that money, and they take 2% commission on that money as well. So we believe and we call upon the people today, we call all the people who believe in liberty and believe in humanity, regardless of race, color, or religion, to stand with us in this campaign and to support the children, the students, regardless of those children, to help them in gain their even basic education, their elementary education that is guaranteed by all norms and by all laws. And we hope that our activists with us today to send the letters to their representatives in their parliament and to send letters to the ministers of education, ministers of foreign affairs, to try to put pressure on those responsible and to focus on the right of a child to education. And that would be a main reason why I should put all the security and political pretexts aside, because we are talking about the right to existence, the right children to education and to exist and to live. Thank you.
It's also I want to mention this, that the Palestinian budget has 16 billion shekels according to the 2025 budget, and the amount withheld from the Israeli government is 7 billion, which makes it half of the Palestinian Authority annual budget. And you can do the calculations. I can see now we can take some questions. I can see some of the questions that is that I can take a few. Okay. One question from the audience says, can we hear about the UNRWA schools? Soil, if you like to answer this question. Soil, انت على mute.
I can't hear him. Unfortunately, there are really very unjust measures against UNRWA to abolish the UNRWA. And a month ago, they went to the main headquarters of the UNRWA in Jerusalem, and they demolished the headquarters of Jerusalem. So the UNRWA schools, their budgets are not part of the PA, but they are also suffering from oppression and violence that take place in the camps, and most of them exist in the camps. And as you know, the camps are being targeted every day. They are being invaded. They are being bombed, and the media is not talking about it. Like in Nur Shams in Jenin in the north, these are now there's a heavy military presence there from from January of 25, there is a military camp in each refugee camp, and the UNRWA schools are in the camps, and our kids, they don't even can't go to schools. That's another story. In the south, also of the West Bank, it's the same problem. The teachers can't even get to the UNRWA schools because of the checkpoints. There is 1,270 military checkpoint that was added to the Palestinian areas after the 7th of October. And this is obstruct the movement of everyone, teachers and students alike. So what we are talking about now, the UNRWA is 1%. So we have, this has been causing a lot of other problems. So we have more than humanitarian problem with hospitals, with psychological problems, but at least now we wanted to focus on education because we are focusing on children and the coming generation.
شكرا سايل. Thank you, Sahil. Our next
شكرا سايل.
question, maybe Tuli, if you are ready to answer. Is not this education deprivation and its consequent harms exactly what Israel intend to create? How can they be convinced to restore education if they are actively pursuing this strategy in order to create such harms? Tuli?
I think that basically what we're talking about is what we're asking for international pressure. I don't think that the Israeli government can be persuaded to do anything for the Palestinian right. The only way the Israeli government will do something is if the UN and other international committees, other international bodies of knowledge will demand that the Palestinian children will get proper education just like any other child. And you know, from time to time, I've been around with CFP for more than 12 years now, even more than that. And there are some campaigns that are controversial. When people are saying, oh, we don't know, can we or can we not support this? In this case, this is a clear-cut case. Children should get the same rights as any other children. It's the Amendment of Children Right by the UN. It's the Amendment of Children Right by every country that is signed off, and Israel is signed on this amendment. So in that sense, I think that, as Sahil said, go to your congressman, go to any other place. I would love this to go. I would like this. I don't love anything here about, but I would like this issue to be raised in the UN, in any other place that can be heard, and international pressure should be put on the Israeli government, because we are depriving children not from their education, but from their future. We're depriving children and Palestinian society from their future teachers, doctors, engineers, everybody else. We are creating a society of undereducated population, and they will be the blue-collar workers for the white-collar workers of the Israeli society. So in that sense, it's an urgent call, and it's a clear-cut, very, very clear. So what we can do is international pressure.
Thank you, Tuli. Iris, the question, maybe if you like to answer. How could the US... Can you hear me?
I just want to add one sentence.
Of course.
I want to, it's very urgent. As Suli said, it's urgent, and I can say that it's a matter of life and death. And I'm not exaggerating. Today, a kid in the Jordan Valley a child from the Giftlik was playing, surely because he has no school to go to, and he was playing around the house, and he found something that
Ammunition.
left from something that left from the soldiers.
He found
like a
ammunition. He found leftover ammunition, and he was killed by the
and he was
explosion,
killed,
and
and two other were
were
injured.
injured.
So exactly, and it's a matter of life and death, and also the violent. It's increasing the violent all over. So it's not a privilege to go to school. This is like a basic human right. And when you go from this Zoom to the outside, you must speak with people and write to, as Tuli said, and Sal said, to write and to spare it, and you have to, yes, it will come only from the outside.
And you can have this recording at your disposal to help explain what's going on. You can get in touch with us, with anybody of us, and Sal is not the only Palestinian that can talk about this, and Aisha is very clear about that. And I think that this is something that went under the radar because of the mass killing in Gaza and because of other more footable issues that happened when you see a demolished house. And also we need to remember that schools are being demolished. When schools are being demolished and other places of education are being demolished, the universities are being raided by policemen and by soldiers. So the whole educational system in Palestine is under threat right now, and we need, it's not that we can and should, we need to change this.
Yes. Maybe one of you or both of you can answer this question. What actions within Israel are building for accountability and awareness? Maybe it is
the Israeli
if you
government
want to answer. What actions within Israel are building for accountability and awareness?
It's very hard. It's like we speak with you. The way to speak in Zoom, the way to speak wherever we can, but I must admit it's very, very difficult to speak with people. Most of the time, like my friends in the Jordan Valley, the activists are afraid even to speak with the families. So it's not something that popular to say that if
you're a teacher and you speak in school, you might be fired. If you're a psychologist or social worker like myself, my lectures and my workshops are being cancelled because I'm for human rights and for Palestinian human rights. There are places that we are not called to work in, although the boycotting activists is very active in Israel right now.
Yeah, thank you.
I need to go. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much. I think that we will follow on this issue because it's in our hearts and soul. And thank you, Sal and Aisha and Suhair and everybody from all around the world for being with us. And we feel that you are with us.
Thank you, Tuli. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you. We have a couple of questions. I think the last couple of questions. Maybe Aisha, you can answer the question. It's of two parts. How many hours a day our children go to school, and our subjects are being cut? Is there any subjects are being cut? عايشة أنت عميوت.
من ناحية يعني ساعات الدوام في المدرسة.
In terms of the school hours, you can say there are few 3 days of of school days, and each day 4 hours. In the 4 hours, there are breaks between the classes. So, so basically, 3 hours of studying per day. So it's like 9 hours a week multiplied by 4. So 28 hours a month. So they are not enough for anything. So suffering and exerting a lot of efforts, and they can't even address or solve or so the teacher is being put under a lot of pressure. His teachers are doing everything. They want to undertake all to do their work and their mission, but they are under siege, whether financially, whether like the nature of the curriculum. The curriculum also has been cut off, and now they replace the curriculum by a teaching or a pedagogical kit. It's a kit, educational kit. They replaced it with an educational kit, and it has very few materials in short, like summary. And as a principal, I always tell my teachers, don't follow the educational kit, and I tell them clearly, give the student the basic pedagogical needs in order to be prepared for the next phase. And you can see that teachers are don't even have the time to cover the materials, and they are feeling frustrated. And I talked to my teachers. One of the female teachers told me, Miss Aisha, in the past, those who were in sixth grade, that's the truth. My father also lived under occupation in the 70s, and those who were in the sixth grade were be qualified to be teachers. So those who are 12 years old, they were ready to be teachers, but now we are facing the problem that they finish the secondary school, they finished and they are ready to go to university, and say it clearly and bravely, they are illiterate. They don't even know how to write, and that's because they don't have enough time to receive enough education to come out to be from become from illiterate to literate, and to be ready and qualified to enter the university. And as Tuli said, it's better to have educated people who will be teachers, who will be engineers, rather than just cheap labor.
I think we're running with time.
Yeah.
I believe there will be more questions, but I want to thank everyone for being here today, for joining us in this important discussion. This conversation helps keep the right to education visible and protected. I also join our speaker's voice and encourage everyone to take action, speak up about the current situation and its impact, and to support children's right to uninterrupted education. Thank you again, and I'll hand it back to Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you, Suhair, Sael, Tuli, who's already left, and Iris and Aisha for joining us today to tell us more about this really important issue. And thank you, Bassem, for your amazing translations, truly. So great to have you with us. And we're thankful to each one of you for joining today to learn more about the deteriorating educational access for Palestinians in the West Bank. And we want to encourage you to step into your own power and take action about this issue. We're encouraging everyone to reach out to their representatives with a letter, which yeah, great. Thanks for dropping that in the chat. You'll see that there. And that is good. You can go ahead and send that in a letter, and then you can also adapt the script in there to call. Calling seems to be the best way to get in touch. They always say the squeaky wheel gets the grease or the oil or something like this. So if you can be that for this issue, it's really incredibly important. And then we also have put in the chat the information page for the education campaign on Combats for Peace's website as well, which has lots more information there for you. And if you are an educator, and we would love to connect with you specifically and talk about how you can bring this issue to your educator network, possibly unions if you're part of that, and see how we can collaborate together to advocate about this issue. So you can reach out to me and we can put my email in the chat for you. You can reach out to me directly for that. And then just briefly, a couple things coming up. We have our joint memorial and joint Nakba ceremonies coming up. Joint memorial on April 20th, and then the joint Nakba on May 15th. So we will send more information to all of you about that soon. And lastly, if you found today's conversation interesting and you want to dive in a little bit more for our Solidarity Circle monthly supporters, we are having a specific conversation about this with Tuli, who you heard from today, to do a deeper dive into the psychological impacts of this lack of education. So if you'd like to join that, you can sign up and join our Solidarity Circle. We'll send a link to that in the chat as well as that conversation that will be coming up sometime in March, I believe. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for all of our speakers and Suhair for facilitating this amazing discussion. And yes, please go act. Contact your representatives, very important, and we will hopefully see you on our next collective ed. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Nicole.
باي باي
Thank you. Bye.
شكرا
Bye. Thank you,
باي
Nicole.
باي